think
This
this is the
conference
first.
will now be recorded.
Sorry about that. So welcome everybody. It's the first meeting of 2019. I think it's been a good 2 months since we last left between the holidays and the shutdown. Um, so we'll try to get back to our regularly scheduled meetings, assuming we don't shut down this Friday. So, and John, I heard you say we have a quorum, right? So we can get rolling.
Yes, we do.
All right, all yours.
All right. Well, I think I've taken roll call, so we're good there. The next agenda item is a review of VLST activities since we last met, ongoing activities. So if Ken is ready.
I am. So we've been, there are a number of us during the shutdown we're still working, including myself, because we're Cooperative Institute employees. So so we actually got a fair amount done over the break. Anyway, the shutdown. So some of the highlights, we spent a fair amount of time on VIT priority issues within the Ideas Marketplace. So those are out now for review. And I think there was one last one that Mike Giebler, he's the primary developer on that, has pushed out. We've also, so just to summarize, those will be ready for Brian Moretsky and Eastern Region to review, since they're the owners of Ideas Marketplace at this point in time. So that's in place. We rolled out personal pages. We haven't done an announcement for that yet, as there's still a couple slight tweaks that I'd like to make before everyone's pointed to it. But remember, this is a My Dashboard feature, and this was a VIT issue as well, priority issue, and so that's been rolled out to production. There's a new request form that we're using that consolidates requests, so community projects as well as repository requests are all made now through the same form, and that should streamline the experience for users, and hopefully that'll be a plus. That actually just rolled out yesterday, and so that's out there. And then we've also, let's see, so we got Ideas Marketplace, the communities. I think we briefed it before our last session, but there have been multiple improvements to the My Communities portlet, including the activity level, and in addition to that, it also now is category aware. And what's this mean? It means that all of the communities, thanks to John Chattel, have been identified as being associated with line offices. So you can go onto that page and basically filter by line office. You can also filter or sort and things by the activity level associated with the community. So those are all pluses. Another change that we made, I think it rolled out earlier last week, and that was that all external partner accounts within VLab now go through, there's one set of credentials. And so the advantage here is that to our users, there's no confusion over, we don't have to send out multiple sets of credentials. It's also a benefit for us doing support, because we can just create one account and not have to create in multiple places. We're using VLCS as our identity provider, so that's where the external partners reside. The NOAA's password policies are enforced through there, and then also it gives users self-service when it comes time to reset their passwords. So this is a win-win all the way across. So those are some of the highlights in terms of what's been done over the past month. And we're continuing to improve. One of the other things that we did is we the team moved the user guide to a knowledge-based portlet, and I think you'll find that that's much nicer in terms of the formatting and such. And we're working right now actually on improving the searchability. It's all searchable, but we're removing the older user guide so that people don't see those older pages. And then we're also looking at ways to streamline the way in which users can find the user guide pages and know instantly, oh, this is a user guide page. And then also, if they want to just do a search for user guide, they can do that. And John's showing at the top there, if you know you want to search a user guide, you can just go to the very top there and do a search right there, and that will search that. So, and anything workflow related would then be found. So, so that's our that's I think the main things that we've done over the past month, and we're still very active. The team is keeping me very busy doing reviews and getting changes published out to production, and they're actually going to be I'll be doing some rollouts this month as well. And we've also made sure that our releases are up to date. And so if you go out and look within Redmine, within the VLab project, we have releases 19.2. That's for this month, and we've slated all the different activities that we intend to get rolled out to production within this month, and then we've also done that for next month as well. So, so if we scroll down a little bit, so there's 19.2. So these are the different issues that we're working on currently. So, are there any questions for me?
Ken, this is Todd. Remind us, or me, your release nomenclature. 19 is obviously
that's a year.
And then month.
And then the month, yeah. So,
okay, so you're generally trying to roll things up into a monthly each.
Yeah,
I know you're deploying them separately, but you're
correct. Yeah, because of the nature. Some of the other things that are coming. This would be worth mentioning. We're actively working on theming Garrett, the code review component, so it has a similar look and feel to the other two components that we've already done, VLCS as well as Redmine. So that's being worked. At the same time, we're looking at upgrading that to the newest release, which will get us some new features. It changes the look and feel a bit, which should be an improvement. We're also looking at upgrading Redmine. I believe that's slated for either 19.3 or it may be 19.4. I'd have to go back and look. And then we're always trying to keep up to date with the fix packs that LifeRay puts out, which is VLCS. So so you can see Redmine is at 19.4. We'll begin that before then, but so there are new capabilities within Redmine too. So so that I think is it.
Yeah, this is Brian Rutsky. I don't know if this is a good time, but you mentioned it a little bit, search functionality.
Mm-hmm.
I still find the search function, and I've gotten feedback that it's not very useful. So I'm not sure if we need to sort of re-examine that holistically, or what sort of improvements you're making on your side to it. In addition, let me make one more comment. If you try, we fixed something, I think, Ken, we were working on the search box itself, but also, I find it annoying when you go and start to do in the search box and then your cursor scrolls somewhere else, you no longer are in the search box anymore.
Yeah, so I can tell you the areas that we're working on was the user guide searches and making sure that the global part. The other two areas that I know are an issue that we're working are having pages be found within the search results, because pages are not included within the search results today. And then the last major thing that we're doing is we're including communities. So today, if you do a global search, communities aren't found. So those are the main areas.
That will help.
Yeah. So.
But have you noticed the search thing too? Like if you're in a search bar, especially like in a community or something like that, where if your cursor just moves off the search bar, you haven't typed anything in. Yeah.
I have had that experience. I'm not sure how to handle
the fix. Okay.
So but I'm all ears if others do have ideas. So. Like I've said, we telling us that search isn't good or doesn't really help.
I mean, one of the reasons you've identified, I can be more specific, but you've already identified two of the things that you go to search for a community and you don't get the community back. That's a pretty big thing. And so I guess so I know we endorsed it and you're working on it. I guess I would say from my perspective and from the user's perspective that there's still work to be done on it.
Yeah, and it's not, they're definitely not done. With regard to, there are some questions that came up like yesterday with regard to this with the user guide. So if you do, John, could you do a quick search in VLCS, please? So the global search is, on the upper right. So you click in here, it searches over everything. And when you do the search based on user feedback, we now have the simple search that comes up. It used to be a lot of information. People would get kind of overwhelmed. But in my mind, sometimes that may not be enough. So we're like looking at, in the case of a knowledge base portlet, the knowledge base returning, in addition to it saying knowledge base, have it say also give the root folder in which the article was found. And so that it would give a little bit more information. You don't want to overwhelm people. We want to give them enough information. You can always click on the advanced on the upper right, and then you'll have tons of information because it's called a faceted search. So there are lots of different facets to it. So in other words, so John did a global search here. So then you can narrow it down by the community. On the left, you can go in and select the different asset types, whether you want a blog, a document, a knowledge base article, things like that. So the tags and everything show up too. So anyway, there's a lot more that can be done or found, but that tends to be too much for most people. So there's a fine line there, and so what I'm trying to figure out is, should we, and in the simple, be providing a little bit more information, or with what we have today, is that sufficient? So anyway, so if there are specific things, please let us know. There are some tickets out there there are several tickets regarding search with details on it, and so I'll make sure that we're moving forward with the communities and the pages. So since I've got a developer working this right now. So.
Well, your question, Ken, and I'll leave it to the VIT leadership to follow up on, but your question there at the end seems to indicate that we need a back and forth here where we're providing some feedback as you make changes, specific feedback that says here's the issues that are outstanding.
Yes, it's usability testing, right? So we could try to do that through the VIT, and then you guys solicit your user base, or for something like this, it might just be that we gather a group of people, and it, as I think everyone knows here, usability for intuitive things, not intuitive, but some things it's very clear, oh, this is great, this is bad, but for many things, when it comes to what people prefer, there are widely different opinions regarding that. But we need to get a combination of people that are fairly new, non-technical, as well as those that are technical, and give them.
Yeah, well, I'll say just similar, and this might come up later in the call too. I would say, at least from the perspective of Weather Service Eastern Region, we would want the VIT to at least coordinate that, because we are coordinating the feedback already. So, and we would for sure be able to coordinate any usability cases and use cases and stuff like that.
Okay, so that'd be great. So there's lots to do. So, okay, sounds good. Any other questions for me? Okay, thank you. You there, John?
Sorry, forgot to unmute myself there. So the next agenda item involved looking at a candidate issue that Brian would like to bring before the VIT. And with that, I'll turn it over to him to give us a short update on what the issue is.
Yeah, this is a use case that I've heard from a few, and that is that there is a need to simplify the documents and media capabilities, including upload and download. Right now, it's very confusing. There's some portlets that are available to organize documents and media capabilities. There's, you can always link to a document, but in terms of a standard way to upload and download, like a one-click, I want to upload a file, or one-click, I want to download a file, that just doesn't really exist at the moment that I'm aware of. And so that's the use case that we're bringing to the table. It was suggested by somebody in particular, but I've heard it from multiple users in the eastern region of the Weather Service. And I've experienced it myself too.
So have you looked at this recently? Because it used to be super convoluted and horrible. But since DXP, it is much easier, like when you're editing web content, to upload content directly from your computer. So
yeah, looked at it recently, even with you, Ken, I think a little bit. If I want to, especially if I'm not an owner or an admin of a community, and I want to enable some sort of adding documents and downloading documents, it is not easy for a user to be able to do that.
Okay. All right. So
and I understand, and so John's showing us a couple things. Like, there are some things like you can scroll over if you give the right permissions and stuff like that. But first of all, how would you know that the plus button is the thing that you need to use to be able to add a document and media? And that's just for those who have the permission to do that. There should be a way that users could come to community, be able to add a document to a document folder using an add document.
Yeah, I disagree with that. So that's only if the community owner allows it. Because in some communities, they're not going to want everyone just uploading files.
There should be a way for a community owner or admin to enable all within the community to add a document as necessary.
Sure. And I believe that exists. Maybe it's a matter of us looking at the user guide, and if it's not clearly document it, and then as we do that, it will, perhaps it's, I remember the conversation we had.
Yeah.
So we should take a look at that. So, and then,
but even then, even after the conversation that we had, you can't. There is no add document button. That is a simple use case that needs to be there for users. So there shouldn't be this, well, I have to click on this plus button or that plus button or something like that. That's the use case. That is confusing to users, and it makes it so they don't want to add a document. And the similar thing, when you try to go to download a document, there should be a download link that is available for the document. That you don't have to click on the document, find where the download link is, and then download it.
See, this is a case where we're experiencing differences of opinion, because it used to be that way. And basically what LifeRate did is they got tons of complaints that there was too much clutter, there's too much information, we just want to see the document. And so what they did was they added an extra click, and then you have a download link. So so that's the struggle here. So you have a very strong opinion regarding that, but others had a strong opinion, and so LifeRate went that way. Now,
let me clarify. Yes.
So
that's why I'm suggesting it.
But what I'm saying is, it can't be controlled by one person pushing the whole thing forward. So
I get that.
So if the VIT as a whole says that we need to be very explicit, though, that there should be an big add button or something like that, or there needs to be a download link included with that initial view. That's an easy thing for us to do, but we just need to get that direction.
And that's exactly what I'm bringing to the VIT today.
Okay.
Right. So the next step would be if we endorse this or not, and then it would go to ranking, right? So
I guess my point is, I'll have to look at the tickets, but I'll have to look at the ticket to see, is it explicit enough? Because it's, are you saying that? So I guess we have to figure this out in terms of, if the guidance is from the VIT, this needs to be improved, and then, then we work with our experts on usability and, do usability testing to come up with a good solution. So I think it's a combination of ensuring that our user guides are good, that we can improve upon the usability. So I have to do a little bit more homework on the issue itself.
Well, I guess this is Todd. What I was trying to say, though, was that the process I thought we had was Brian logged an issue, we come here, we look for a second person to endorse it, and then it would go through the normal process we have where it would get ranked. And if it's a high rank at the end of it, then yes, Ken, you would have to do all that stuff. But it may not get ranked high and is in our backlog. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, so one of the things we have to be careful of is the VIT pushing for engineering type solutions, and that's not this. I mean, this is a usability type thing, and I agree that's definitely part of the purview. So let's. I think we should. I'll look at the issue in more depth, and we need to provide more information about how we're potentially doing things today to it. I would think that would be good, so that the VIT members have more information to be able to go from, or maybe it's already there.
No, I think that would be good, Ken. I agree.
Okay. Yeah.
Getting that information to make a decision, because like you're saying, we are making a usability decision that at least in Eastern region, I'm saying we've gotten the feedback that this is the case. Now,
Right.
Other VIT members, it would be good to get the same feedback before they prioritize the ticket to say that this is an important thing and this is something that we need because it is a usability change. But again, if the VIT is not, I agree with Todd also, because if the VIT is not bringing things that we want changed, then I'm not sure what the VIT is bringing to the table.
No, I mean, that's the whole point, right? It's the VLab improvement team. So, yeah. So I'm all for change and I'm all for improvements. We just need to be clear about how things are working today, what we're proposing here. And maybe I obviously have not spent any time on this issue, and we need to.
So are we proposing then that, say, Ken comes back and demos at our next meeting, the functionality that currently exists for uploading and downloading documents, and perhaps even discusses the documents and media capabilities?
Yeah, that would be fine with me. And then it would almost be like we'd have 3 meetings on this dedicated to this topic here. With the first meeting where we brought it up, second meeting Ken comes back with some more information, and then the third meeting is based on that more information. The VIT comes back and ranks the ticket.
Okay.
If that makes sense to others.
It does. And going further, I think what Ken was also trying to say was, let's say it is an issue of usability and we do rank it high and we do want to improve it. I think, Ken, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but let me just try paraphrasing what you're saying. We might run into technical limitations because we're using LifeRay. Like, there's only so much we can do, the VLab team can do to improve something, because it's not our code. It's another company created it. So I think what Ken was getting at was there's, maybe we can do some stuff here and there, but if they're changing the underlying framework on how you download, then there might be a limitation. So.
Yeah, it's a balance. We just have to figure it out. And then the other thing we have to be sensitive to as well is, there have been issues, like John Ice, when he was on this group, he was a big proponent of it needs to be consistently throughout, and I agree. Consistency is a good thing, because if it's something behaves differently in all these different portlets in different areas, that's confusing to users. So I agree that it's going to take a couple different meetings. I'll go back to our team. We'll document within the ticket how it works today, and then we'll do some brainstorming internally to look at, okay, and then I'll pull in Brian, and then we'll come back to the VIT, and I think we'll be in a much better position. So
works for me.
Okay. So if there's no further discussions on the candidate issue 59805, I think we're ready to move on for a short update on a number of tickets that we're in the process of ranking. And let me bring that list over so everyone can take a look. We have the 3 issues in the white area that are being ranked, and we've had very good response. The only one that hasn't gotten feedback on the issue 57660 is Nesdis, but we could certainly proceed with the very robust input that we have thus far. So I would recommend that later this afternoon, which would give Nesdis a chance to provide their input if they so choose, that we go ahead and close out the ranking process, and I will update the appropriate tickets with the impact scores as indicated over here on the left.
Agreed.
Okay, good. Got an action item, update, ranked tickets. And this is some of the best participation rates we've seen. So keep up the good work, guys and gals. Looking good. We have another issue that I'll bring it over here quickly so everyone can be reminded of what it is. So for a while, we've had this issue before the VIT that involved hosting video content within the VLab. And at I think it was our last meeting, in fact, the consensus was that the VLab was not an appropriate location to actually host the content. Instead, we were going to look at some other options to include perhaps something in the cloud, as it were. But we left unclear as to how to handle this actual ticket. And so my thought was, in trying to figure out what to do with it, that we would probably want to reject this request as, not the way the VLab wants to go. The other option would be to leave it in existence and perhaps maybe change it to, something else like host video content accessible to the VLab or something like that. But I think that wouldn't provide a lot of value, since we have an ongoing effort to look at this topic in more detail as part of the VIT's process. So I open it up to discussions on whether we should reject the ticket outright and basically get rid of it from our list of things to do, or should we take another approach?
So this is Todd. I think I'm okay with the first thing you mentioned, rejecting it. I mean, and I know it's the next thing on the agenda to talk about. We know that the video problem won't be solved on VLab architecture, period, ever. So that's what we discussed in November. That's not going to change. So to me, from a VIT perspective, it can be rejected with a note toward, and John, this is a segue into the next topic. You created some web content that Brian and I worked on with you to document all of these, the background or proposed next steps, and you can reference that content page for future reference. So that works for me.
I agree, because that's what we said last time.
Right.
That Todd would bring it up, and you can, again, John, you could close it and just refer to our discussion here and the content that Todd created.
Okay, I can do that. And so that everybody's on the same page, the content that we're referring to is available in our community under team discussions, and there's a separate page just for video hosting, and it's composed primarily of a wiki whose tab is called Video Initiative, but there's also room for uploading any documents that we might want to save there for background or reference. But the actual wiki content is available here, and I think that's still in somewhat of a draft mode, so if anyone wants to provide input on it, they're certainly welcome.
Yeah, and this was right before the holidays, I think, that we put this together. I know I was trying to dust off my brain on this morning. I think what we did is me, John Chattel, Brian, and Ken, we put our brains together in, I think, December, and we drafted this out. I know I went in and edited and added things about how cloud service costing works, and I think, Brian, you touched on at the end of that content page the way forward about drafting a proposal or something.
Yeah, can you scroll down?
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
So what I was going to do or can do is basically take what we put here and draft a proposal basically from the VIT that says this is what we're looking for, and we can send it up the chain through the CIO, through weather service chain of command. What we were looking for today is in this way forward, in order to draft this proposal, we just wanted the VIT to confirm our discussion that we had, to agree with the discussion. And if you scroll back up, John, basically what we're suggesting is to go with the purchase of cloud services to host video content. Number 4.
Yeah.
So we determined that was the best strategic option. So I think the action that we were looking for when we did this just before the holidays is we wanted to introduce the topic here today, get any questions, concerns, etc. Put this out as an action that maybe by next meeting, if there's anything that else to be considered, it should be considered. But otherwise, we're looking for the VIT membership to approve this option number 4, and we'll put that in a proposal to NWS NOAA leadership. I think that's what we agreed on, Todd.
That's how I remember it too, as far back as my brain can go.
So
Okay.
one of the considerations here will be that today you can get to content within VLab from like the AWIPS network for NWS operations, and so that's ideally that would work in the future. Obviously, it does not work today if people are clicking on videos and the video is hosted within YouTube. But that's something, ideally, anything within VLab, whether it's hosted within the cloud or on premise, it would be available even within AWIPS. So that's something that would be an objective for us.
I think we had a note somewhere about making sure from a security perspective that it's deemed, I forget the terminology, it might be right there in front of me, the con under item 4, must be deemed secure enough to use on AWIPS.
Okay, great, very good.
I think that's why we put that there to say, when this is going to be cloud, we got to have that connection point from AWIPS, and the only way to do that is to pass the security muster that whoever that is that would decide that agrees to.
And I did have a quick informal conversation with Julie Rao, who is ITSO for AWIPS, and just kind of brought up the issue of the cloud, just to see if there are any showstoppers with regard to that, and it didn't appear that way. And I also talked with Travis Dixon, who's ITSO for IDP, and had a similar conversation there, because not only for video content, but we're looking, I think I might have mentioned this to the VIT, but one of the problems we're having today is with continuous integration. We just don't have the flexibility within our current environment to meet the needs of our user base and the different projects doing work, ranging from the Office of Water Prediction to AWIPS to NLETs. There are a bunch of different projects that we could be doing so much more in terms of coverage, security scanning, lots of things that aren't just feasible within our infrastructure, and the cloud is a logical solution there as well.
All right, okay. So on this one, bottom line, I guess we're giving John, everyone 2 weeks just to read over this content to see if they have any changes or additional feedback to make, and then otherwise the next step would be what Brian talked about, drafting a proposal. I would love to know, but in 2 weeks, the other line at NOS. I mean, we've been using cloud for video for several years now. I am curious what other line offices are doing, just to solve the data and video problem. But maybe this will solicit some of that info.
Hey, this is Rick Methot in Fisheries, and we have a ton of video stuff that we do from 2 main sources, as well as stuff that we do as outreach material. In terms of our science content, we have video that comes from underwater cameras, and we also have video that comes from cameras on board fishing boats to augment the fishing observers. So both of them are giving us terabytes of video quite routinely. And so video storage is certainly a big issue for us that we're still looking into. Cloud storage is certainly among that. But that aside, certainly our I would imagine the other line offices as well are serving up video, and I certainly have linkages to YouTube as well as other video service. I'm not quite certain of the concern on serving up video from any sort of a web service. I thought that was a routine thing to be doing.
So it is if the infrastructure that the line office and or whatever we call lower level offices in the different line offices, if they have the proper infrastructure to do it, right? So my office at NOS, I'm just speaking from my current hat, we did not physically have that hardware anymore. We couldn't afford the hardware and the bandwidth. So we moved all of our as much as we could to Microsoft Azure years ago to serve it that way. And it got us out of buying, so I'm serving something like 170 terabytes right now, is what I'm saving and storing in our cloud storage accounts. But what we found is that other offices throughout NOAA just weren't doing that. So they're still sitting with stuff on premise, running out of space. What VLab runs on, that infrastructure just can't handle terabytes of video. It just physically can't.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where we're at too. We aren't serving up that high quantity of video ourselves.
Yeah, but you're ingesting a ton, is what you're saying, because it's coming in off you're ingesting terabytes constantly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's become the equivalent of our satellites for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
So are we ready to move on to the VLab outreach activity update that we had agreed to have as a sort of a standing action or a standing agenda item?
Sure, that was, of course, when I was doing it. My NRAP ended basically during the shutdown. I missed out about 20% of my NRAP time from the shutdown. Basically, long story short, right before the holidays, Ken and I went over to College Park that Kate Friedman helped us organize. We did a pretty small outreach event with half a dozen, maybe 10 people, while Ken was in town. And then the big thing we were supposed to do in January was a couple of us, myself and Ken, we're going to fly to Kansas City, and we were going to do an outreach event for in mid-January in Kansas City for the Central region. And of course, that clearly couldn't happen. And so all of that is, of course, now on hold, and now my NRAP's over. So, John, in terms of outreach, we probably don't need to have this on an agenda until the next NRAP position's filled.
Okay.
Because there just won't be any update.
Well, so Ken, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I know within the VLST, we still have weekly meetings that deal with outreach. Should we sort of take Todd off the hook, as it were, to provide the update and then fold it into your VLST update?
Yeah, we can do that.
As case warrants it?
Okay.
All right. So I will do that so that it stays, front and center, because we do have a number of action items tied to this outreach idea, which we may want to revisit at times, and that'll be the way we'll do it.
Sounds good.
Okie dokie. So any questions for Todd on outreach? Okay. So let's see, I guess I'm next up to talk briefly about the subscription manager. We've had, let's see, Mike Giebler has done some excellent work in this area. We went from basically no subscription manager under DXP to now a subscription manager that's better than the one we were using in 6.0. So, quite a testament to what Mike can do for us. And let me go ahead and just quickly review for folks, what the subscription manager is all about, what it can do, because this does feed into what we've been asked to do in terms of, sort of weighing in on whether or not VLST work has been resolved to our satisfaction. So before, we could pretty much just only deal with forum categories, and with the new subscription manager, that's still the case. So one can go into a particular community, such as the VLab Improvement Team, and work on the various categories that are available within that forum. And also now we can deal with the whole forum itself. So before, you had to just update or create subscriptions for the categories underneath the main forum, but now we can go in and using the button to the right here, we can manage the subscriptions for all of them at once, which is, hey, nice at times. So in addition to forum categories, Mike has introduced the ability to manage subscriptions on a number of other things that people subscribe to within the VLab, such as wikis, both the main node as well as wiki pages. As everyone knows, you can subscribe to changes or additions to document library folders. So we can now manage basically subscription to those simply by clicking on that tab, and then seeing which folders and documents are available, and then using the same approach, just go in and manage the subscription. And then one other not shown here, which does appear in quite a few communities, are the asset managers. So the asset portlet can be deployed to a community, to summarize, say, recent updates to web content, or in some cases documents as well, whatever you want to have in your asset manager or asset portlet. You can now manage that subscription as well. So big improvement since we last talked about the subscription manager. And then won't show the details here, but Brian can attest to the fact that now it's pretty easy to manage subscriptions to the whatever it is, what's it called, Brian?
The Ideas Marketplace.
Ideas Marketplace. Yes, I can't want to say. Yeah, subscription manager.
Yeah.
To the Ideas Marketplace. So it is now quite the flexible tool, and I hope everyone gets a chance to use it at some point, because it does make running a community so much easier than having to rely on people to do this for themselves, which of course is very problematic at times.
Yeah, it's very nice. We did find one bug that Ken knows about related to the top level subscription forum.
Yeah, Mike fixed that yesterday, and I'll be rolling that out to production today. So.
Sweet, thank you.
Cool. So does anybody have any questions about the subscription manager while I have it up before us? Oh, just one quick thing. So for those who may never have done it, you go to the control of the whatever it is, I guess it's called whatever it is, it's the product menu. Yes. So the product menu on the left here, and then for a particular community, you go down to the configuration portion of the menu, and then you click subscription manager, and it'll bring up these whatever's available to be managed within that particular community. So if there's only forums and no wikis and no document libraries, then you'll just see the forum category portion of it. All right. And with that, I think, barring any questions, I think we're ready for the open forum. Anybody have anything for the open forum? I did want to, since we have a second or two, just remind folks that basically at the end of today, we'll close out the opportunity for folks to comment on, I believe there's 7 VIT tickets that have been resolved from the work of the VLST and are now ready to be closed on our end. So if you have any last minute thoughts on them, they're available in our discussion forum under the VIT process. So last call today to get those comments in. Otherwise, we'll be closing them out and indicate some good work that we've done and succeeded in improving the VLab with.
John?
Yep.
Just one thing from me, and this, again, it kind of relates to discussions we've been having about usability and feedback. I know Todd you didn't get to go out and do another outreach event in Central Region, but I feel very strongly, and Eastern Region does as well, that we want to continue to provide usability feedback. And if there are specific things on the VLST side that are in need of usability feedback, we can definitely solicit that. In addition, again, all of our stuff comes from trying to improve the VLab and making it more usable. And I would still be interested. I know our strategic planning team sort of never really got going, but in terms of what we want the VLab to be used for, I think that's a very important thing that the VIT members communicate with their users, and that the VIT have discussions on in upcoming meetings. So some topic to discuss, what future things we're looking for from the VLab. Again, I know Steve Smith does the update once in a while, so maybe it's appropriate when he does the update to say, here's what we're looking for, and do we need additional tickets or ranking of certain things as a result of that. And David Beechler and I have had similar discussions in the past about soliciting feedback, continuing to survey the users constantly on what their needs are. So I hope that we can continue to do that and not just sort of go pick at it piece by piece. And I don't hear you, John, so we might be on mute. But
No, I was seeing if Todd might want to say anything.
Yeah, it was really meant, I guess, for the current leadership, but hope that can become a topic that we continue to address.
Can you hear me now? I'm having some John, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm having trouble on my end. I missed about half of that last conversation, and then you guys couldn't hear me speaking. I
quickly summarize. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
To quickly summarize, just looking to continue our strategic direction, especially to use the VIT to provide that strategic direction and not pick off piece by piece certain things. Make sure that we're getting the feedback from our users. If we need to send out additional surveys to solicit information, or just informal, whatever we need to do to get that information from our users and provide that usability, those use cases that we're looking to improve on and move forward with the getting people to use the VLab as efficiently and as effectively as possible.
Yeah, okay. So sure, of course, that's the objective here. I don't know whatever was going to happen with that strategic. I remember hearing about the strategic team that never really started. I guess they were just going to be taking a higher level look at things versus the tactical issue by issue. But I don't disagree. I don't know the best way to do that in terms of necessarily in terms of how we would capture that, but that's what we'll figure out in the coming months.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've got about 4 minutes here. Time to go through very briefly the open action items that we have. So the first one up was from our December 3rd meeting. We were to schedule discussions at the next VIT meeting about issue 38-295. We had those discussions, so that can now be closed. We were to schedule a VIT endorsement needed to basically, the video hosting via cloud services. And we discussed that at today's meeting. That will remain open pending the VIT's review at our next meeting. So once we get that done, we could probably close that out. Incorporate information on VLab's 8x5 support. So I think that's been accomplished. Correct, Todd, is part of the outreach materials that you have left behind for us to use?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll close that one out as well. Let's see, this was at our next meeting. We were to discuss a series of VLab use cases, and I had originally kind of scheduled that, but Todd was no longer doing this, so we may need to go back and revisit this, at least maybe when we get our next outreach manager or lead in place, we can come back and revisit this one. Todd, did you leave any use cases for us to use?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have to just be started from scratch by the next
person. All right. So I'll leave that open, and I'll reassign it to somebody else. We'll work that later. Okay. So share with the VIT members of the copy of the surveys being used for pre-event analysis.
I did do that in November, I think. I did it shortly after that meeting.
Okay. So we'll close that one out.
Yeah.
Present ideas on how to survey users so as to inform outreach events. I don't know what more needs to be done there.
I think we can close it.
Okay. Final, let's see, is that the final one? No, maybe not. Present VLab support team approach to using, so this is the timeline roadmap concept.
John, the only thing I was going to say about the survey thing is if we have surveys, I'd be interested in the VIT being able to see what surveys were created or if any were created.
Yeah, okay, so I think Todd said he emailed that to everybody.
Yeah, you gave feedback, Brian. I think.
Did I?
Yeah,
okay.
Like in November or
I can't remember. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Do we have that? Do we have it posted in the VLab community?
I believe that's where I put it.
Okay.
I'll go look for it, and if I can find it, I will disseminate it to everybody.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Let's see. So where were we? Oh yeah, the roadmap. So I think Ken has kind of really described the current way we do business there.
I think we can close it. The key was he showed us, or you showed us that earlier. It's the month release. The part that's missing is how do we communicate that to the VLab wide user base that you've heard me talk about for the previous month. We have to figure out a way to advertise those changes to our actual user base at some point.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we know where we can go look, but we haven't ever quite figured out the best balance to say, hey, 1,000 users, here's what's coming next month or next quarter.
Okay, so I'll reframe this one to focus on the communication strategy. And there.
If it helps, John, I mean, that was that previous, we just ranked it a 10 on the.
Yeah.
So it'll take care of itself by addressing that red mine issue.
Got it. And then today I provided a quick demo of the subscription manager, so we can close that action item out as well. And then moving on to the new ones, new action items from today's meeting. We need to do a demo / analysis of the documented media / upload and download capabilities in the VLab and provide that back to the VIT at our next meeting. Let's see, we need to reject issue 38-295 and reference the ongoing content within the VLab on that effort to move to the cloud, our hosting capabilities. We need to update the issues that have been ranked today successfully and make those endorsed and then provide the weighted average as feedback to the VIT or the VLST. So that's 3. And then let's see, I know there was a 4th here. Yes, we need to at the next meeting discuss the video proposal. So our VIT proposal, and then let that pave the way for Brian to run it up the chain. Did I miss anything? All right.
I don't think so. We're all set.
I turn it over to you to close out the meeting.
That's it. We're closed.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.